Hello everyone. About to tell you guys a story. Story time. We're gonna call this time traveling. Time traveling stories. Right now we are at Piney Branch Field, and these are the courts. These courts are now, as you can see, the signatures now. Steve Francis, his signature on the basketball court. Now his basketball courts. So growing up, we didn't have these baskets here on the side. As you can see now, they got one, two, three, four, five. They got, but it was just full court on these basketball courts right here. And as kids, we would come up here, and that's all we would do was just play basketball. And these courts would be filled up with some of the great players. I think like everybody who played on this courts, at least 80% of them could have made it to the NBA. So as you see up on the hill, we have these hills here. We didn't have these benches. This wasn't here, but we had these hills, and people would come and sit up here. And then up there was a parking lot. People would park who wasn't from around here. They would park up there and sit underneath the shed. That was an old shed. Or they would come here and just sit. You would have girls would come. They would just sit on the hill. And from up on the hill, you can see the basketball court and just watch us play. It was like a hangout spot as well. One time we was out here playing. There was a lot of people out here. And this day I was only probably like 4'10" back then. He probably was shorter, the shortest guy out here. Not saying I was the best, but I was always out here. It was my outlet just to come up here and shoot at these courts, or for us to be up here. I know I wasn't the best out of my peers that I grew up with, but you had to be sort of good because you hanging out with them and you playing something every day. So one day, I always had a jumper. I always had a nice jumper. One day I just caught fire. I mean, I was off, and I remember I did one move. I was right over here in this corner. The guy was checking me, and I was working on this move to where I threw the ball, and the ball came back to me, and it spun them around. And I stepped back, and I shot a three. And I just remember running down the court and looking up there, and everybody was just like screaming and stuff. They were just, but this day, I mean, my team was, I think it was Muhammad and Bobby. It was these two brothers. I think they was on my team. Like I picked, like my team I would play with was like the people that, like the underdogs from like Maple. So the day was over. We little kids. It's time for us to go home. Getting late, and we start walking. It was me. I ain't gonna say the other two friends. Me and two other friends. We stopped walking. We left the courts. We got our stuff. So to go home, I can go down these woods right here. That would take me straight to Park Ritchie. But if you live in Duville, which is that way, it's another path that you can take. But we usually would take that way to Duville, you know, just to buy us more time before we get in the house instead of going straight that way. So as we walking, one of the older guys come running down and was like 505. Man, you was on fire today. I said, yeah, I was. And he was like, we was in the 8th grade going to the ninth. He was 8th grade going to the ninth. He was going to high school. He was like, that's the basketball coach that was up there standing. You see the tall, skinny dude up there with like the gray hair, pepper hair? He was like, yeah, that's the coach. And he was asking about you. So my other two friends like shocked now, like asking about E. You know, But at the time, I didn't know he was there. Why? I didn't know who he was, but that explains why everybody was trying to play so good that day. But I didn't know who he was. I was just out there just playing. So he tells me, he's like, man, good job. OG goes back up there. We turn around. We keep walking on this little path right here. Right now, I'm soaking it all in. And my friends was just like, why was he looking at you though? You ain't really do nothing today. So I was like, man, I was on fire. What you mean? you was on the sideline the whole time. And no lie, y'all. He then says, well, it don't make a difference because you ain't gonna make the team anyway. You too small. I said, dang. He said, you too small. You ain't gonna make freshmen. So you shouldn't even try out. And you know, back then, you know, your friends, they tell you stuff like that. You already feel like you ain't good. And you know, your height. I was the shortest one out here. And that kind of hurt. It did hurt me. It did. So we still walking, and you know, still walking. It kind of got silent because my other friend now, he like, hey, I can't believe he just said that to him. But the whole time my other friend was like, man, you did your thing today. You know, you did good. We walking. So as you can see, it's those courts down there. And then you have these courts on the far end of the field. And these courts would be the courts where people would come at, like the second string. Like, if you ain't really want to play over there, you will come over here and shoot on these courts. But as you can see, these courts wasn't like this. Dang, they got brand new courts. They ain't had the courts. They wasn't like this. The other courts over here was like 15 feet high. The backboard was all crazy. So you really had to learn how to shoot on these courts. So as you can see, we go through here to Duville, through the path that would take us to Duville. So before we go in, we would stay here and shoot a couple of hoops. And then we went in the house. But what made my jumper, so after he told me that, I came back up here. So up here we have this game that was called Around the World. It's the reason, I know it's dark out here, but it's the reason why I'm doing it dark time. So it was called Around the World. And it was spots, it was like numbers from like 1 to like 9. And nobody wanted to come over here and play Around the World with me because I was so good at it. Because that's how I practice on my jumpers. Because I remember one time I went up to, I was like in a White Oak area, and I seen this player. He went to Springbrook. His name was Darren McClinton. And I remember seeing the way he was shooting his jumpers, you know, and when people warm up, you know, everybody's like going crazy, dribbling. Like this dude was just warming up getting his wrists ready and his legs. It was just so I brung that and was doing Around the World, and that's what got my jumper the way it was. So moving forward, I went home, I told my grandmother, and she was like, baby, you trying out. Matter of fact, take this basketball and go right back up to the basketball courts. And that's what I did, y'all. Like when I had to be home, my grandmother would tell me to come back up here when it would be nobody. See how dark it is up here? But back then, the moon is kind of cloudy out here tonight. But the moon would shine to where it would give the basketball court a light. And I remember I would just be out there just shooting, practicing. And I come home, my grandmother would be waiting for me with a plate. We would pray. and I didn't give up. And I did that for that whole summer. So I didn't even come back up to the courts no more and played anymore, because then the coach was still coming. Everybody was still trying to impress him. People was coming from different areas playing on these courts. And I was like, I don't need to, he already seen how I play, so I ain't gonna go up there and just keep, so I wouldn't play. So I just come out at nighttime under the moonlight and shoot jumpers. For that whole summer, that's what I did. For that whole summer, that's what I did. So it's time to go to school now. We're in high school. Montgomery Blair. We went from being Blue Devils to Red Devils. In high school, you know, your first year, 9th grade, I'm like I said, I'm like 4'10". Just look, I'm just waiting for somebody to grab me and throw me in a locker. But I remember walking through the school, all they would be like, oh, look at little Eric. Older people, like I said, they would be up here. So it's time for the practice. And during the time, my friends still like, you coming, you trying out, you trying out. I didn't tell them I was trying. I ain't tell nobody I was gonna try out. I just showed up. First practice, he made us run. First practice was just like a lot of suicide drills, a lot of 3-man weave. And you know, I'm small, so I'm fast. I was fast back there. These little legs just would be moving. So I was like, we could do suicide drills all day, or run around the court. So you can kind of see a little bit. See, it's cloudy out here, but the moon would hit the courts. Be out here shooting. So first practice, and I think it was two tryouts. So the first practice, it wasn't a lot of like running up and down like 5-on-5. It was like conditioned. Then it was like, I think a 3-on-3 full court, something like that. A dribbling skill. We all come home. I ain't thinking I'm gonna make it. The whole time my friends now see me, was like, why did you even try for it? Why you even try out? You know you ain't making it. Came home, grandmother prayed for me. Next day, time to go to school. First period, second period, lunchtime is when they put out the first cut. Was the first cut is when they put the paper out. So I remember coming out of English class. One kid was running down the hallway, running through the porch. The JV list is up. The first list is up. I just remember him running through the hallway. So I started walking. So they put it in front. You remember where the Montgomery Blair seal was at? In front of the office. They put it right there. Like right in the front. Like it was like a little bulletin. Don't forget your book. This your book?
Oh, what?
This your book?
Oh, no, that's not mine.
Okay. So I remember walking up and everybody was around the paper, looking at the paper, and I swear to you guys, it's like everything was just in slow motion. Like everything was just like froze. And I just see everybody just looking at the cut sheet. And when I walked up to the cut sheet, I was like the last one. And I remember looking at the paper, and my name was on there. I made the first cut. And I remember looking at my friend, because my other friends wanted him on the team. I remember looking back at him, and he was like in tears, and my friend's like, man, don't worry about it. You're gonna be all right. And he's like, how did Eric get past? And I'm like, but this time I'm like, I'm just waiting to hear him go back home and tell my grandmother. So then we had practice that day, the second tryouts, and they had this tryouts in the small gym. Remember, Blair had 2 gyms, so this one was in the small gym. And we had practice in a small gym, but the second practice was running 5-on-5. And I love the small. I like the small gym better than the big gym, because I remember the small gym had that wooden backboard like the Hoosiers. It had that wooden box. And if you got a jumper, you hit it off anywhere off that box, boom, it make that sound and it will go in. So once the second practice was in there, I said, okay, I'm good now. I like this gym right. I can shoot in this gym. The big one, not really, but this little one over here, yeah, this little gym, I can. So I end up doing good the second tryout. Came to school the next day, the final for the team. Once again, I come out, dude runs through the hallway again. The final roster's up. Once again, slow motion when I'm walking up. I go and look at the paper, and guess what, y'all? My name was on the paper. I made the basketball team. I made the basketball team. I had made the basketball team. Might didn't get no playing time. I did have like one good game. I had one game one time, I'll never forget. I had a game, and they either put me in when it was like getting a blown out, or we was up by like 100. They put me in the game. But one game at home, I went in, and this first time I got the game, the first play, I stole the ball from Cuz. I'll never forget. I stole the ball, and I threw a pass like over my head. Like he was cutting, I threw a pass over my head, and the varsity team, the varsity guys used to watch us, because they used to just laugh at us, because we were so small. And I know to them that it probably looked funny, us out there just running around. So the star players in high school. And I remember the dude looked at me, and it was David Vanderpool. David Vanderpool was like the star. He was sitting there watching the game, and he looked at me, and this first time he ever said something to me. He was like, "You ain't mean to throw that pass." I said, "Yes, I did mean to throw that pass." He said, "You ain't mean to throw that behind the back pass." And then he scored. So that game, they was like, "All right, keep going off then." Man, I was shooting everything. I was going to the free throw line with like 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And every day, how they put the roster up from the people who got cut, they would put like the scores or the MVP for the game. So after that game, they had a spot for unsung hero, and my name was there. The next day, they made me the unsung hero of the game for 2 minutes. But my grandmother was so happy, and I mean, I knew I wasn't the best basketball player, but I think she was just showing me to don't let people bring you down or pull you away from your goals and what you need to do. And I think I look back at it now, telling you guys a story. It was like a lesson she was showing me. And that lesson stuck with me. I'm pretty sure a lot of other people got similar stories like that as well, coming up here to these basketball courts, or even up right here on the football field. And then we had the tennis courts. We had a couple of kids from Park Ritchie who would go and play tennis. It was a whole lot of athletes. Like, this place right here has so many athletes, to where you had to be good. So that's like me, when I would leave and go to like a different spot, a different location, like Virginia, people would look at me like I was good. Like, "Dad, you small, but you real good. He's good." But then when I came here, it was just like, was an average player. So I hope y'all enjoyed that story. Just wanted to share that story. I got more stories coming. If you got a story you would like for me to talk about, I would talk about it. But that was just my basketball story of me making high school basketball. The smallest kid made it on the basketball team. So until the next time, bye.